have talked about the eightfold negation of the middle path, and we are going to start with the second paragraph of the next page.
해놓은 것이고 그 뒷장을 넘어가서 이제 두 번째 단위 쪽이죠.
This is an elaboration of the eightfold negation of the middle path. This is a problem that needs constant attention, and therefore
요거는 아주 계속해서 풀어나가야.
Buddha spoke about this matter for 21 years.
그래서 이걸 부처님께서 요 내용을 말씀하신 게 그 21년 동안 말씀을 했다.
The sutra or the text about the parameters that is all about the middle path and also the dependent arising. And last time I gave you a little explanation, but since it is going to continue, I'm going to speak about it a little more. The voidness and dependent arising are like the two sides of a coin. When we say it's okay to say the two sides of a coin, but basically they're actually the same. It's just that they have a different explanation, because if the voidness is not maintained, but if we say that there's something that is permanent inside, then we cannot say it achieves the point of dependent arising. As per the relation, it comes and it goes. That does not get achieved. Because inside, think about it, even human being, if we say there is something that lasts forever, then we will not have our issues about living and death. And the thing called life and also the thing called death, we can also say there are two sides of a coin. A life without the condition of death is not even thought about. And if we say the life without death does not exist, and if we say the death is like the voidness, and if we compare the life to the dependent arising, if we compare them in that way, then we can understand that they are similar saying. So everything, there is nothing that doesn't change. Then what is our existence? Everything gets formed due to the law of the causality, and also it does not mean that there is something that is there essentially. So the voidness and dependent arising are the same sides of a coin. They are the same side. There are two different sides of a coin, but if we deny the dependent arising, then we are also denying the law of the voidness. And also in that way, if we refuse to accept the voidness, then we are refusing the dependent arising. Then what is a dependent arising? We are talking, that is the situation that arises from the relations. We are also talking about theory. But people while living, if they don't believe in the law of relation, but it's nothing to do with believing or not belief, but it is actually a fact. So if we eat food, then it is a fact that our stomach becomes full. And even when you're talking about moral effect, then some people also argue that the law of relation has got nothing to do with morality, but that is also not the fact. If we do something immoral, then we are bound to have effect of the result of the immorality. That is a law that can never be changed. So, if you believe that after killing or murdering someone, if you feel that you will have no effect, then you're actually denying the law of the relation. And if you wonder what will happen to the person who has been killed or who has killed, then the person who has killed, he will have a lot of stress psychologically, and the person who got killed will be burning inside and out with revenge. So even communists, when you talk about the Chinese community or Soviet Union or even North Korea, then the reason why we say they are wrong is because they refuse to accept the law of the morality, and they have killed thousands of people. And for that, they say there will be no consequences. But there will be consequences. Just because it's political doesn't mean it can step outside the law of relations. So if you refuse to accept the law of relation, you are actually refusing the dependent arising, and that is, in fact, also refusing the voidness. So we can say that the fact is that it is dark. So you're dark for the law of the universe, and so everything that the person does could be dark, and the person is committing a lot of immoral actions. So when you're looking at things from the mundane perspective, then an object can be created and can be terminated. And the middle path that has been quoted here, we are looking at everything from the point of view of voidness. Nothing is born and nothing is terminated, and nothing is different, and also they are not the same. In 6 parameters, in prime parameter is written that if you're looking at things from the point of voidness, then nothing is born and nothing is dead. And if you're looking at things at the point of life, then because there's nothing that doesn't change inside. If you're looking at things from the voidness, let's see, if my hand is in this space, and in this space you can see my hand. But then if I put down my hand, then my hand is not there in the first original space anymore. But the space has got nothing to do whether it has my hand or not. So there is no death, no life. So even the pain, it follows the same perspective. Our agony follows our greed and has been created. But even the agony itself, even our greed, is not there in the first place. So therefore, it's not that we can eradicate it, but it's a little difficult to say. But rather than we say is we can eradicate it, if we free ourselves from misunderstanding, then we can know that it is just like a shadow and it does not exist for good. So if we look at things from the mundane world, while living, we feel that all of these are mine, and that's my money, and that's my land, and that's your money and your land. And if you argue about this, then when we buy our land and when we sell it, then for some time being it is mine. And if I sell it, it's not mine anymore. And if you think about it from the point of life, then it's born and it's dead. And you know that this gets repeated. But then if you're discussing about it from the essential point of view, from its originality, then there is no life and there's no death. And if you look at it from the point of view of voidness, and there's no life and there's no death. It's just even when you say the light has been switched on and switched off, we can say that there was life, but it's not that life was there, or it's not that the light was there from the first time. So we can say that there is no life. So that's why.
그래서 이제
So that's why it's the same. It does not get break, it does not last forever. But then, if we think the voidness, if we just assume, if we keep arguing that everything is void, then what happens? And if someone asks you, then what is our life? And you will not be able to answer, and that becomes nihilism. So while living in this life or every day, what do we have to do to make it most beautiful and most happy? So apart from our everyday life, there is no way we can live. But this time and this moment, if we do not fall into the misunderstanding of agony and pain, then we can step outside from our agony and live happily. Why is that so? Because pain is not there from the first time, but it got created because of my habit. That's why we can always escape our pain. And we're not talking about it without any proof, but Buddha has been there personally, and he has also taught his disciples about it, and even the disciples has followed the same, so it has been proven. So if you're talking about this borderline, then at some point of time, we'll have our desire to believe in Buddhism, and at some point of time our mind will be very peaceful, and that's something that we can achieve in this life. So in Prajna Paramita, all the part of Prajna has been describing about these parts in detail, and Buddha has spoken about this for 21 years in detail. So what is Prajna? It's experiencing the voidness. And what is voidness? Of course, it involves the point that we know the ideology of this life, but when you experience it, it means the pain has disappeared. So we can see the emptiness of the pain or agony. And what is essence of the agony? It is the stubbornness for myself. So when we achieve the absence of selflessness, and also when we understand that things are without our independent individuality, then every phenomenon in this world, they have no central attention, and also there is no point, or there's nothing in this world that we have to feel greedy about, and we can also know that there is nothing in this world that we need to be attached at. That's how our life will go, and if we are able to do that, then there's no problem with living, because there's nothing in this world that we need to have attachment for. So we can take everyone to the path of enlightenment and also happiness. And because you have seen that place yourself, you will also have the strength to lead them to the happiness. And while doing that, we can say the gate, parasam gate, let's go to the road of ultimate happiness. And that's the enactment of Prajna Paramita, and that's also practice. But even after your practice ends and when you become Buddha, that you can also still practice that for the good of everyone. Nagarjuna talked about the eightfold negation that does not get born and that does not get terminated. These 8 useless arguments. We can the wrong arguments about this world, like this world is over when we die. But some people also say, why does it end? Just like Brahmin, we can go to heaven and live forever. Like that, we have so many different perspectives, and even Buddha, the Buddha has come to this world and has left this world. We can also say that. And just because he left, we can also say Buddha is not here any long. And we can also have that kind of wrong idea. And even when Buddha is here, if I have not experienced the area myself, then there is no difference whether Buddha is here or not. For example, even if you're with your friend or even if your parents, it's different if your husband is sick and if I am sick. Even if your husband is sick, I am not sick, right? So maybe my heart pains a little, but at times there are also times when our heart is not sick. Because my husband has been drinking all the time. If he's sick, sometimes they feel relaxed. So it's all different. Even when Buddha is here, when if Buddha has come here truly, then with the Buddha's enlightenment, the parts of this world that he has shown, and my enlightenment should reach at the same space, then only we can say you have become the real Buddha. But what do we say? Because Buddha has come here, Buddha has come to this world, so but I have nothing to do with it. Buddha has left, so it's a pity, but it's got nothing to do with me. But even if Buddha has left this world, even if Buddha has achieved enlightenment, but all sentient beings, they have the sense of Buddha in their heart, and so Buddha is here constantly. He has never left this place. So when you argue about this from the point of voidness, then we can say that there is no coming and there is no going. But when you argue about it from the mere human being, because he has so much attachments, if he die, then the phenomenon, we think this is everything. So we feel that after our death, everything ends, and we'll have this kind of clear idea. And all the ideology of this mundane world, they are most of them try to discuss about two extreme ideas. So they are usually ideas in one end and to the other. Even when you're looking at things in social ideas, then because we keep discussing about two ideas from two extreme points, we keep having arguments. And because of that, our society is always very noisy and no problem gets solved and everyone keeps arguing about it and we keep living this world. So eightfold negation, the useless arguments. What is it? It's a philosophy that does not get achieved in reality, but they are just a theoretical theory. So they are just philosophy. So philosophy of this sort and the other sort. For example, we can say in this way, it is not one or it is not two. We can also say, is everything in this world one or two? But some people argue that there's God in this world and the God created everything. And because they argue in that way, the people who does not believe in the same God, and because they have that kind of idea, they say those people who believe in other God, they will never be redempted and they can never be happy. But then if you say, but then you can ask, what is it in this world that they are for one? Even people, there we have about 70 million people in this world, and everyone is different. And why they're different, but they're still together as one. I think those people who believe in the oneness, we call here same and different, but but not everything is the same. There are also the different part in the sameness. So even in sameness, there's a difference. And if you look at it from the point of view of voidness, then there isn't much difference in the isn't much concept of same and different. So, for example, if you say black people and white people are different, then if you like after that, if you bury them or if you burn them, then basically they all have the same process of burning, but maybe there's only difference in molecular DNA or just some facts like that. So same and different. Um, it is too extreme to say it's same or different, and we call them useless argument. The the saints who has unpolluted wisdom of direct consciousness, they do not think the phenomenon arise due to their related relations, and did not think it arise independently and dissolve. So the saints, we refer to those who have learned a lot. So the disciple who killed a lot of people came under Buddha's guidance. But although he came under Buddha's guidance, people were still afraid of him because he killed too many people. And we call Angul and San, and uh, when he went to back in front of a house who was giving birth, she was so afraid, and so even when the baby was being born, the baby went in. It is supposed to have said, and even and so they and so he ran to Buddha and said, "What should I do?" And And so Buddha told him to go and tell him that after he has entered the path or the way, he has never done anything wrong. And so he went and said that to the baby, and the baby came out. When you say when you have entered the path, it is all the greed and all the agony has disappeared. So there's nothing to commit crime, and we call that saints. And we say they have entered the right path. And in Buddhism, you have to enter to complete enlightenment or the way of building truth. Then only we can say you are the saints and you have followed the proper teaching. And so those people who has attained the state, for them, although even if we take them to the Korean bank, they will not do anything wrong. They will not even have thought to do anything wrong. They will not commit any crime. With that kind of person, it's a big difference. Like opening a lock to steal, and also when you're just there, you don't feel like stealing anything. So as Dalai Lama spoke here, the saints who has unpolluted knowledge, here the direct consciousness here refers to the insight. So you're not looking at an object with my opinion, but you're looking at it in a pure manner, the insight to see it as freely as it is. And because you're looking at things as they are, your existence in this human world or in this mundane world, they know that it is wrong to have attachments for this world, and they'll be able to know that it is wrong to have attachments. And after they realize that, since their attachments has already disappeared, there won't be any problems for them to have attachments. But person like Yu Byung-hun, he he has so much attachment for money, which not even dogs will take. So here the pet does not refer to our Buddhist pet, but here he's teaching manners were that of a thief.
도둑의 길에 확실히 접어든 사람이야.
So wherever you take him, and even if you take him in front of the God, he will even steal the stick of the God.
그 사람은 어디
You
가도
never know
아마
with what
천사에
method he will take it.
사하는 날에
So the God has to take care of his own stick.
훔쳐갈걸?
He has to.
살지도 몰라. 하나님이
If you have a wrong son, or if you have a son who is a thief, then your son will be you have to safeguard your cupboard, and even when you go to bank you should not give him any money to keep it. If you have a son or daughter who is a thief in your home, then you know they even took the money which they sold the cow of the house, which is the whole property of the house.
갖고 나가려 그러면 옛날에 소판놈도 훔쳐가 버려. 정주영 씨 같이 소판놈을 훔쳐 나와서 성공을 하면.
But the sons of Buddha, when they say they have seen Buddha, but they're not looking here, they're not referring to statue of Buddha, but they're referring to the fact that they have been able to attain to the status where all of their greed has disappeared. So this is not other special phenomenon, and you have a same body form, but when we say we have attained the Dharma body, every thought of his or hers becomes the law or becomes the Dharma. There is nothing in this world that is against the law of the universe. Then we say the person has entered into the path, and when you ask the person to lie to you, that person cannot even lie. So even in front of death, the life and death does not exist. So in front of the death, why would you have fear? You won't even have fear. And because of that, Buddha has said regarding the middle way, he said once, imagine what kind of difficulty he went through in order to explain to those who does not understand. Even if someone comes to cut my hand, I will have no hatred for that person. And even if the other person comes and puts my hand back to where it was, I will not have a thought of the gratefulness. So it seems like I can understand that if he cuts my hand, then I will have no regret. That's understandable. But if they put your hand back, then you should say thank you. But why not? Here we're talking about the metal which not does our heart which does not sway with the wind in the heart. So if someone does good to you, then you say thank you, and if someone does wrong to you, then you say you curse the person. It's same for the husband and wife. So that's how everything in the world goes on. So it's nothing to trust. So for your children and between the children and parents, we just mean that the relationship is a little stronger. But if something goes wrong, then it becomes worse. It becomes more difficult than going to dentist to remove your teeth. You can do surgery for your teeth, but for your children, you cannot do anything. And because you know that, you try your best not to become enemy. I'm sure you all go through difficult times too. Even if your son does wrong thing, you don't really say you have done the wrong thing. Our grandmother, who I feel so pity about, they usually boast, my son has done this to me and my son has done that to me, but that's all a lie. When you think that your son has, when they say, my son has done this for me, they're only saying that because they have not been provided. You know what that is? That's almost like a fish, puff fish, uh, who puffs when you try to catch it, and the puffish becomes really big. It's actually the person whose sons and daughters as well to them, they don't even say anything in fear that someone will take it away. But the parents who says a lot of things about your children, it's mostly it's because they have nothing else to show off about. If you since you cannot say bad things to your own son or daughter who you have given birth to them, uh, you go around showing off that they have done good to you. This is now Chuseok's, and that person has bought this and sent to me. I know what that means. That means they have not even come to give it to me, but they have only sent it by post. Just by looking at that, I understand. The grandmother, when she comes and tells me that, I know that it's all a lie, so later, if Imsu and Kunsu say things like that, don't tell me, because we can know that what you have done.
지금 쓰고 말이야. 헌것 주면 돼.
Those bones, all these phenomena, all the phenomena that we see, they all exist depending on each other, but we can for sure know that there is nothing that exists forever. Even that house is the same. We cut the trees and we put stones and we put logs and we put boiler and we make a house. But in the end, if we take out everything, then we cannot say that's actually a house. So the house is not there in the habits, and also in the habit is not there in the house. And also, if you put cement, then even the cement, if you burn it, then it only becomes ash. And everything will burn. Then does the ash change? The ash, even when you break it down to different molecules, then you can see that even the ash disappears. So nothing is there because they have its eternal form, and those saints, they know that completely, so they are not being swayed by it. They are attached to nothing. Even if you give them the whole universe, they will have no attachments. And even if you fill the whole different thousands of universe with valuable jewels, for them it does not have so much meaning. Even in the comedy program, when it's almost like the program where the person says it's not meaningful. It doesn't have so much meaning.
별 의미 없다 빙봉 하는
Even if you fill the whole universe with valuable
의미 없다
jewels,
그러더만. 별 의미 없어. 삼천대천 세계 진짜 칠보로 가득 채워준다 그래도 별로.
your heart has left the useless arguments, but they're only looking for the ultimate truth, which is voidness.
성이 보리심은 아니. 그들의
When the
마음은
samatha
오직
is
실온을 떠나
achieved
궁극적인 질인 공성을 보고
through vipassana,
있을 뿐입니다.
and if they're able to realize that if you have the insight that nothing in this world has its own original form, and if you have the power of insight, then what kind of attachments can you have it on anything that exists in this world? You have no attachments. And because of that, for others to see, they might think that you're wasting something that's very valuable. But they're not giving it to you without any thought. They're giving it because for them this doesn't have so much meaning. You even know the story of Gujang, where when they had these different markets for 5 days, and those who attend all these 5 markets, we call them 장돌뱅이, and they have all their things to sell, and after one market is done, they move to the next market, and after it's done, they move to next market. So they keep moving the different markets. First day, second day, third day, they just take round the 5 markets. And one of the saints, so he was traveling with those 장돌뱅이s, and the person who was selling the cloth, the silk, because the monk was wearing a very worn out robe, and so the merchant gave him a very warm and very good material for him to make a new clothes, and he did not even say thank you, but he just took it. But amongst those people who takes around the market, it's not only people, rich merchants, but they also have very poor merchants. When we say very poor homeless people, then we say they are like beggars. But the merchant, the silk merchant, he did not want to give to the beggar, so they went for about 10 miles, and even when the beggar was like shivering, he did not give him anything. So the monk, when he was walking, he took out the cloth that was gifted to him, and he gave it to the beggar, and he said, "Make your own clothes. It should be very cold for you." So he ignored his own chillness. It's almost like Dalai Lama when he was awarded the money for the Nobel Prize Peace Laureate. He gave his award money to the African refugees, and when he was asked, Dalai Lama said, "Our refugees, we do not suffer from starvation." Okay, but I'm going to talk something that's internally. I'm also a little embarrassed, but it's the same for you. I asked you to bring clothes so that we can give to people living in Tibet, but do you remember you only brought bad ones, and even the ones that we collected, some people took it back saying that, oh, this is a little, this is something that we can still wear. So I never asked about it twice. And the silk merchant, while walking, he was thinking that how is it possible that the monk does not even have any attachment or any greed? Other people they would have thought that oh this is something that's so good, and even the monkey when he was given he just took it to his back, and even when he was giving it to the beggar he did not say anything and he gave it to the beggar. So the merchant thought, is it possible that he doesn't know anything about the material? Or but on the way he thought, oh, is it possible that someone who doesn't have so much greed to exist? And he was having the time of self retrospection, and he thought, oh, I'm trying to earn money today so that I can buy a little alcohol for myself. That's all he thought about. But when he looked around,
샴푸이라도 더 받아가지고
his whole heart changed, and he and and he was very embarrassed at himself.
그 먹어볼까 이 생각밖에 안 났는데 보니까
And he said on the way, I'm going to quit selling, but
사람이 한 사람 더
all the silk that he was carrying in his chariot, he did not even think about them, but he just wanted to follow. He asked the monk, is it possible to follow you and study? And he said, okay, come. But not if it was time nowadays, he could have thought that give me phone number, but at the time there was nothing like that. So he just followed him,
가버리니까 그럼 요즘 같으면 전화번호나 주소 좀 적어주시오 그럴 텐데 그때는 그런 것도 없고
and all his goods they were just left there in a whole chariot, and he left.
이제 그럴 여가가 없어.
And that's the very famous story about Kyujung, Venerable Kyujung, and that's on.
그따 그냥
And until he gained his enlightenment, the venerable
그 유명한 구정대사지 그분이 이제
felt responsibility, and he made sure that he could gain enlightenment. If the merchant, if he had some attachments for the silk, then it would also have taken a long time for him to do so. But he gave up all his greed, and also his thought to his aspiration to escape was so great, so that it also provided him the backbone for his study. Even about you all, even when you try to escape from it, then
이제 좀 힘있게 된단 말이에요.
but even going for the Dharamshala teaching, for you, you have so many issues like clothing, and there are so many different issues that blocks you.
사람 뷔페 가는 것도 뭐가 걸리고 뭐가 걸리고 뭐가 걸리고 뭐 옷이 걸리고 뭐가 걸리고
The unsurpassed, profound Bodhisattva, the meaning of it is very clear. That we call the achievement of voidness or understanding of voidness is not only the understanding, but even in our hearts, we know that the greed has disappeared. That is the Bodhisattva of unsurpassed profound meaning, and that's very clear. That cannot be shaken at all.
하나도 없이 사라졌다 마음속에까지 욕심이 하나도 없이 사라졌다 그 얘기.
That's got to do with the ultimate wisdom that we can call it tranquility, dwelling in tranquility. There's something that we cannot change with anything. Just like the whole universe filled with jewels, it's more than making donations to with the whole different jewels, but understanding it is way more greater.
그로서 가득 쌓아놓고 보시를 한 것보다 이 사국에
Having so much money so that we cannot even use it in our whole life. More than that, it's better to have meaning in our life. When we say Mr. Lee Gani has so much money, but it doesn't seem like the problem is solved. But when you try to solve it with money, when your luck ends, then even money, even if you have money, it cannot influence you.
돈으로 해결하려고
Even if you have a lot of money, there's no use to it because it doesn't have influence.
복이 다
A lot of people say,
안 되거든요. 돈이 있어도 영향을 못 끼쳐.
what is there in this world we cannot do if you have a lot of money? But there are so many things which you cannot do.
안 잊혀져. 사람들이 그래서 왔지. 세속 사람들이. 아이고 돈만 있으면 요즘에
Yes, and it was not even possible to when you were facing it, when you're standing in front of that, if you ask them to slow your debts, that's just not possible, even if you give a lot of money.
물어보니까 그것도 안 된대. 저승사자가 막 끌고 가는데 저 와이로 좀
There are a lot of things which is not possible.
그것도 안 된대.
Seems like even in our mundane world, there are so many things which we cannot do with money,
돈으로 안 되는 일 많아.
isn't it? Even people with a lot of money, they go to prison if something goes wrong. In olden times, if you have a lot of money, it seems like you could be free, but especially in front of death and in front of aging, there's nothing that you can do. The money has no power at all.
옛날 같으면 돈 많이 가지면 뭐 좀 자유로울 것 같아도 그게 특히나
In military,
죽음 앞에서는 아주 아무 힘을 못 써.
when you become a military general, then
군대에서는요.
then the rest of the military members, they won't even be able to look at you. But even in front of death,
소실점이 내가 보이질 않는 사람이.
even if it's army general with 4 stars,
그 사람 명령 한마디면 뭐 생사를 걸어놓고
in front of that he won't be able to do anything, but he will be begging for his life.
죽음 앞에서는 그냥
There's no difference.
60만 대군을 호령하던 사람이 그냥 와가지고 병 한 편은 쪄가지고
For something like that, but you argue that you're living your life, and that's actually very futile. So through your self-practice, you have to keep practicing so that you feel less insecure at the time of your death.
참 험한 거예요.
If you prepare yourself well, then you will have less insecurity at your next life. That's almost like you prepare well for the winter, then you will have less fear for the coming winter and also spring. But if you do not do proper farming, and if you have no savings, and if you do gambling, and you have nothing left to live, then it's difficult for you to survive the winter and also spring. It's just like that in your life, in your this life, you have to do many good things and you have to help others a lot. And in order to do that, you have to keep practicing, so that you have to practice the parameters, and you should have no back steps. You should not take back steps towards your greed, and you have to keep praying. And in your heart, you should remove yourself from all the things that disturbs you. Without that, there is no other method to win.
그리고 이제 그없이 연불정진하고 자꾸 해서 마음에서 왔다 갔다 하는 잡된 왔다 갔다 하는 생각들.
Here, the ultimate wisdom, which is the enlightenment, which is voidness. There is flowless and it does not move. Here, the flowless means there is no flow. So there is no gap. There is no gap for anything. Here, the gap is agony and also pain. When you say there is pain and agony in our heart, then our heart can move to a different direction, or else your heart can go to a next dimension. It is flowless and it does not move, and therefore inside, because no gap in between, and it's uniform. That's why it does not move. But our heart is not stagnant, but our heart moves with every other moves.
틈새가 없기 때문에 마음이 틈새가 없이 일념이 됐기 때문에 부동이라.
It is flawless, there is no space, and it is rigid, it does not move. And this is the essential form of it. And so, if we say once again, the ultimate truth voidness, the saints, it is the wisdom that is in collaboration with the samatha and also vipassana. So it is not proper if you have only samatha or vipassana.
다시 말해 선정에 된 성인들의 지혜는 지와 감이 조화를 이룬 지혜입니다.
Just like all the previous information or wisdom has been said about the both samatha and vipassana, so you have to practice both samatha and vipassana simultaneously.
선지식들이 다 정회상수를
But
얘기했지.
samatha can be practiced before, and based on samatha, you have to practice vipassana.
이렇게 한 적도 없고 지와 감이 동시에 돼야 된다. 그냥 동시에 내가 여기 동시에
So samatha gets achieved, and
지가 먼저
through vipassana,
관을 갖다가 꼭그 지를
everything that exists in this world, if you experiment it at the form of the samatha, then just like a mirror that has been cleaned very clean, you can see things in reality. And when we say reality, then everything in this world, there's nothing in this world that has a form, but everything is developed due to relation, and essentially it is voidness, but phenomenally it changes. You can experiment that.
영원한 실체를 갖고 있는 것이 하나도 없고 전부 다 연기에서 인연에 의해서 일어나는
This gets achieved due to with the development of samatha first. Without samatha,
확실히
if you're looking at the wall with mirror, then you have to clean the mirror first. Just like that, just like the wall being reflected in the mirror, it gets reflected, and that is only getting that you can see the reflection through vipassana. But before, it is important to develop samatha.
같이
If you have achieved the security at the object of your observation, then you can concentrate your concentration without disturbance to other things. And at this time, you can develop the rigid wisdom, just like a flame that does not move with the wind. And this is essential wisdom. So the place where your heart can depend,
부동리치가 생깁니다.
the shelter where your heart can depend.
집중입니다. 그러니까 이제 여러분이 이제 마음이 의지할 수 있는 그 마음이 의지할 수 있는
It's a method which you can concentrate your heart at your heart when you're praying, or at your breath, or by concentrating you can form the prayer, or you can have an aspiration, and with that you can remove the gap.
집중시켜서 거기에 집중시켜서 그 마음을 일념으로 만드는 것이라 그랬죠, 그죠?
If this gets continued for 3 to 5 days, then you'll be able to reach to this boundary.
다시 얘기해서
That's why a lot of previous teachers, they talk about 3 days.
것이 3일 내지
You should not have the gaps being developed, and in order to make sure that the gap does not get formed, you have to have a strong belief that you can attain this status, and there is no other method other than practicing it very hard. If you do that, you will see a great difference.
그 경계가 있다라는 것을 갖다 정말 큰 믿음을 일으키고 아주 열심히
Even for 1 hour per day or 2 to 3 hours, if you can only do that, then one day you realize the great difference. You will see the contents being changed, and if you do that for 2 to 3 years, then
하루에 1시간 내지 2시간, 3시간 이렇게만 애를 써서 하는 순간들 다
that person's power, you'll be able to see that person's power that has been developed over a period of time,
죽자 살자 하고 나면
and you should be able to attain the status.
그냥 음력이 쌓아왔던 음력들이 녹아진 것이 그냥 보여.
Just like a flame that does not move, that does not be blown by the wind.
공부는 그렇게 해야 되는 거지.
No matter how much I try to stay rigid,
이게 바람에 흔들리지 않는.
if I am not able to remove all the greed that arises from pain and other agony,
내가 아무리 암이
there is no other way that you will not be moved. No matter how much you try to push it, it will move.
떨어버리지 않고 마음속에서 그렇게 마음이 파동치는 것을 떨어버리지 않고서는
So with one aspiration, you have to practice and develop,
아무리
and you have to cut down the thoughts with your heart move, especially for those ladies here, because they have so many different ideas. While doing, they keep having different thoughts, and they have small little thoughts, and they are great obstacles.
키나 여자 보살
And sometimes when I listen to you speaking, because your heart moves too fast,
자꾸 딴 생각이 그 자자
I feel that it will be a great burden for you to have this kind of thoughts. But those saints, they never have this kind of cunning ideas.
그냥 이게 금방
Please do not discuss about something like this.
공부에 장애가 심하겠구나.
Shall I say this or that? Do not do that.
안 부려. 절대 눈을 이렇게 얘기하지 마.
Do not keep shifting your ideas from one place to another.
돌리는 거 아주 나쁜 놈이야. 깨내지 마. 뭐 이런 거지.
And actually, the great people, they do not make this kind of wrong ideas.
강원도에 됐다 그렇게 하지 마. 수대는 이렇게.
And that's why the 보조국사, his other pet name was
또 다른 사람은 꽤안 내.
that just like he walks just like a cow walks, and he does not turn around
소치는 사람인데
with the change of thoughts.
우행에 걸어도 그러니까 소가 걷듯이 황소가 걷듯이 또박또박 걷지. 쫙쫙쫙 돌아보고 그런가.
That is not the rigid heart, but
생각이
it's
그렇게
just like a money that falls off the cliff.
그 놀래라.
Shouldn't be if it happens so.
그 마음이 부동이 아니고 그거는 완전히 그냥 동도 그냥 절벽에 떨어지는 동이잖아.
That's why someone who practices, he should be very happy. Even his behavior and even his attitude, it should be like 100,000 kgs heavy. And even the mouth, you should have glue all over your mouth.
하는 사람들 듬직해야 돼. 무게가 천근 같은
So I'm trying to invent a lipstick. After breakfast, if you stick it, then it will be able to open about during the lunchtime.
하여튼 풀을 좀 많이 붙여.
And so with that lipstick, you can practice the silent speech. And after lunch, you can glue it again.
한 3시간, 4시간 용 그러다 이렇게
And at the time of speaking, you don't speak, so there's no need for it. And
점심 먹을
And so after dinner, if you use it again, then you'll be able to open about 4 hours later. But at the time, you are sleeping, so it doesn't matter anyway.
잘 때는 뭐 이제 붙일 필요가 없으니까 그것도 저녁 밥 먹고 또 붙여놨다 한 4시간 되면 그 4시간 뒤에는 잘 거니까 이제 냅두고.
This bodhisattva is free from all the meaningless argument, essentially. So, achieving the voidness, awakened voidness, then whatever theory you try to apply, you can know that the theory is useless.
그러니까 승이 보리시면 그 깨어 있는 이 공성을 체득한 것은
So whether how is a capitalist and socialist, and how is communist, and how is nihilism, and what is reality, all the speeches that you try to collaborate here, you'll be able to know it well, and you also know that with that kind of theory, it is not possible to achieve your final dream. And there is no theory like that in reality. It is not there in those kind of theories.
그리고 그거 가지고 안 된다는 것도 잘 알아.
This is only there.
그런 이론은 있질 않아.
I think you know this. Uh, this story about the proud gentleman. He was so intelligent and he was a debater, and he went around and made sure that all the people to have headaches. So when they will talk about the heaven, he was like, "Have you seen it? Then who is it? Who is it who have seen it?" And that by the time he tries to trace back, things get a little vague, and so he would question with no proper idea how can you follow. So in India, um, he was so famous for someone so cocky, and also there's no one who won the battle against him, but uh, but he was like since there was a person named Buddha who seemed to have gotten enlightenment, he went to challenge him and ask a question. I'm going to ask 14 things. If you answer, I will become your disciple. It's so cocky. And if you are not able to answer, then you need to step back. And Buddha said, okay. So he was asking, is there an end to the universe? Is there an end to the universe? So he asked about 14 things which has no answer, which you can never know. So Buddha sat down without answering anything, and the person who came to question Buddha was like, "See, you are not even able to answer." But although he was not able to answer, he did not show any kind of reaction. But he was just sitting there. So while sitting, he also challenged him to sit, and for so many hours he was sitting, and it's like so he also dozed off, and after so many hours, he was like, "Did I ask the question in the wrong way? Or I asked the question in a proper way because no one was able to answer." He is also not answering because he doesn't know the answer to it. For him, that's how the world was. He had to go, but he could not go because he needed answer. And while sitting, his legs were hurting, and he was trying to. Uh, Mandungja, the Malunkyar Buddha, was very surprised because Buddha said one person was shot by a poisonous arrow, and he was budging so that from which direction did the arrow come? Who shot it? What kind of poison is it? Why did he shoot this arrow? And what kind of bamboo did he use? After investigating, do you think the person lived or not? And he answered, of course he died. Yes. Yes. All the 14 things that you ask, if after you come to know, then what happens if you die? And Paramita asks, everyone dies, then isn't it so? Do you know how to solve the problem of death? And Buddha answered yes. And there they made another bet. They challenged again. And Buddha said you have to do this and this to Balunkia Buddha. And he was like, if it doesn't happen, then you are the cheater. Although he answered in a very respectful way, that was his content. So he told him to practice it for a week. And so he was sitting there, and he achieved Aranka in a week. And after achieving Aranka in a week, he cried in front, he shed tears in front of Buddha and said, such a foolish me, in front of teacher I came and I made such a great mistake.
딱 아랑까 이러고 나서
And now you answer about 13 answer. Okay, now I know the answer to them.
그렇지만 없더라. 괜히 스승 앞에 와서 이렇게
Okay, then only that's the righteous way.
네가 13을
That's the story with learning capital. So the useless arguments historically,
그래야 옳다.
never in our history they have benefited other people. They mingle together, and just like us communist ideas, how many people died in Soviet Union, and because the Soviet Union was formed, what happened to the Central Asia and also East Europe,
가지고
and even Korea people, about 500,000 people were taken for the war, and they were taken in prison, in train, and they were just thrown out in the forest, or to say, you know, prairie. And do you know how many people died, and how many people died in Cambodia, and also how many people died in Vietnam, and also in America? All the communist ideas
프라임일 때 얼마나 많이 죽었어.
tell us how has it helped people.
캄보디아에서 얼마나 많이
So
죽었어.
in which part of the agony or the pain has it solved? And to become happy, how flexible was it? So as the capitalist, about the time when it's about to end, you'll be just sitting in a pile of garbage.
한데 뭔 도움을 준 게 있냐. 자본주의도 마찬가지야. 자본주의도 이제 끝날 때쯤 되면 여러분이
The answer to Buddha's speech does not lie there. It does not lie with experiments that has no way to experiment, but there's no with other theories. But it lies with how can actual people can distance themselves from agony and become happy. The interest and the motivation lies there, and not anywhere else.
사람들이
Because we're not communists, we're not capitalists, we have accumulated wealth. But look at America.
관심이 있는 것이지 딴 데 관심 있느냐. 우리가 자본주의를 해가지고
The money,
부를 축적했다 그러는데 우리나라 한번
80% of it.
봐봐.
The 80% of the whole money that about 5 people have it in Korea. So I said, then do they eat about 20 meals a day?
80%를
Do they wear 400 clothing per day? And in the car, do they drive over 2 to 3 cars? Or maybe they have different car for their hands. They cannot drive about in 10 cars, and they cannot eat 20 meals a day.
차를 타러 한 다리는 이쪽 차에다 다리 놓고 이쪽 한 다리 놓고 팔을 하나 앞차에다 짚고서 그렇게 타고 다니라. 무슨 차를 10대를 타고 다닐 수도 없는 거고 밥을 하루 20끼를 먹을 수도 없는 거고.
The capitalist, the essence of it, the ideology itself is very futile. How can you control the greed? How can control the greed?
원성 자체가 그 철학적 이론 자체가 흠하기가 그지없어.
It's almost like to children, you give them a sword and you ask them to sway as they like.
애들한테 칼잡이 놓고 마음대로 시도를 보라.
The Bodhisattva, the original Bodhisattva, is free from the all useless arguments. This kind of theory and also ideology,
그래서 이 궁극적인 보리심은 본래부터 모든 실험에서 자유로운 것이다.
with the things that does not even help us with our happiness, they claim to save or redeem all human beings, but that is not possible. With that kind of method, you cannot save other person. Jesus said he's going to save this world.
굳이 한다는 얘기가
Did he say, is he going to save with money or organization? With what method? With what device?
예수님께서 구세
Is it by building a big church? Even if the whole country becomes a Christian, what has it got to do with the God? All the people with power, it's only beneficial to them, those people with power.
교회를 크게 지었을 거예요. 국가가 전부 다 기독교 국가가 된다 손 치더라도 그게 하나님하고 무슨 상관이에요?
Next line, they're discussing or explaining about the method to achieve this.
만 좋을 뿐이지.
In order to achieve this for a long time, you have to practice and get used to samatha and vipassana. So you have to continuously practice samatha. So even when you are praying, even when you're reciting the mantra, you have to continue without rest to recite Avalokitesvara. And
여러분 연구를 하는 것도
again and again, you have to listen and you have to learn the teachings of Buddha. And if you do that, and while looking at this world, you have to know that there is nothing eternal, and everything comes and goes with the relation, and everything is just like a bubble. And you have to observe in this way, then only your greed will reduce. And if it doesn't, then it is actually nothing. If your greed does not leave you, then everything is futile.
그래도 조금이라도 줄어들어. 떨어져 나가. 그러니까 안 떨어져 나가면
It is nothing.
아무것도 아니야. 욕심 안 떨어져 나가면 아무것도 아니야.
You have to get used to it, to the practice. That's why you have to be able to practice and continue the practice just like you eat your everyday meal.
자꾸
I have a big responsibility too. If you don't do that, then I have to scold you a lot. But if I give you a little opportunity, then you give me so many excuses. Okay, I'm going to go and earn some money and come back. But you're not even able to earn a lot of money. If you're able to earn a lot of money, then that's a different story, but you're not.
또뭐 아유 신체가 바빴어요. 뭐. 내가 이제 어디 갔다 뭐 돈 좀 벌고 갔다 올게. 돈도 별로 벌지도 못하면서.
With the money that your husband earns for you, if you're able to live your life, then that's more than enough. And please treat your husband just like Buddha, and with that you will be able to practice. Maybe in a day, 1 to 2 hours sit and recite mantras, and while you are traveling around also recite mantras. And then only in this harsh world, things will get a little more less burdensome for you, and you will face less disturbances. Just like spoken in the Unraveling Soul Sutra, you have to know that the various samadhis there are various samadhis, Shravaka, the Bodhisattva, the Tathagata, are all part of the samatha and vipassana. So, for all practitioners, when they are entering the voidness, so without the practice of samatha and vipassana, they are not able to enter the voidness. You have to know that they are the result and consequences of samatha and vipassana. And those two of them are part of the samadhi, and that's why you have to consider them equally, and you have to practice them, practice the two of them. And every day, just like your everyday life, the practice of samatha and vipassana should be practiced. Then only your heart will start calming down, and your agony will start fading away. Just like spoken in the Unraveling Thought Sutra, the various form of samadhi, they have the form of samatha and vipassana. So Vipassana and Samatha has been taught. So many different words were being spoken. They were said, but they are all connected to eventually to the Samatha and Vipassana. And through Samatha and Vipassana, you can achieve your enlightenment.
지화관을 통해서 깨달음을
Let's end today until here.
이렇게